All right, teen smoking, part one. A Vermont study published in December 2001 by the American Academy of Pediatrics examined parental influence on teenagers' decisions to smoke. A group of students who had never smoked were questioned about their parents' attitudes toward smoking. These students were questioned again 2 years later to see if they had started smoking. The researchers found that among the 284 students who indicated that their parents disapproved, 54 had become established smokers. Among the 41 students who initially said their parents were lenient, 11 became smokers. Do these data provide strong evidence that the parental attitude influences teenagers' decisions about smoking? Okay, so we got to figure out what kind of design did the researchers use. We got to write appropriate hypothesis, check the conditions, test the hypothesis, explain what the p-value means in context, and then if that conclusion is actually wrong, which type of error did we commit? Okay. So let's take a look at this. Okay, so what kind of study did they do? So the first thing, question A, well, there was no treatment imposed, so they simply asked a question. So they asked a question in 2001 and then in 2003, 2 years later. So this is obviously an observational study. So did they look in the future or in the past? Well, when they first started it, they then looked into the future. Okay, so this is a prospective observational study. Okay, so now I'm going to go through this. This is a phantoms problem. So the parameters, we got P sub D is the proportion of students whose parents disapprove of smoking, and what else do we have? We had P sub L, and that is the proportion of students whose parents were lenient about smoking. Okay. All right, so the hypothesis. Well, the null hypothesis is that P sub D equals P sub L. Okay. The alternative hypothesis would be we would expect the lenient parents, or the students who have lenient parents, to be more than the proportion of students who have parents that disapprove of smoking. Okay, so the alternative hypothesis would be that. Okay, P sub D is greater than P sub L. You could write it the other way. P sub P sub D is less than P sub L, not greater than. Okay. Okay, so our assumptions and conditions. Okay. So do we have a random sample? So if we look at the problem, it does not say that it's random, so we're going to assume that this is a representative sample. Okay, the 10% condition. Okay, 284 and 41 are both less than 10% of all teens. Okay, independent samples. Okay, so independent samples condition, the groups surveyed or sampled were done independently. And then the last one that you have is success failure. So in the first sample we had 284 that were sampled, right? And out of that 284, was it 54? So 54, that would be NP hat. The first sample would equal 54, which is greater than 10. And then NQ hat would be 230, which is also greater than 10. Okay? So this is the number of students who had parents who, I'm going to put a D there. So their parents disapproved, but they smoked, and their parents disapproved and they did not smoke. And then we had NP hat for lenient parents, and that was 11. So that's greater than 10. And that sample size was 41, so NQ hat for lenient parents would be 30. So that's greater than 10. Okay? So the number of successes is greater than 10, and the number of failures is also greater than 10. Okay? So the name of this test is a two-prop hypothesis test. Okay? Now, we do the test statistics. So we have N sub D is 281. Okay? And then we have N sub L is 41. Okay? And then we need P hat sub D is going to be 54 out of 281. Okay? And that's 0.192. And then Q hat sub D is going to be 1 minus that, or 0.808. And then P hat sub L is going to be 11 out of 41. So that's 0.268. And then Q hat sub L is going to be 1 minus that. And that's 0.732. And then we need P pooled. So we're going to do 54 plus 11 over 281 plus 41. So we wind up with 65 over 322. And that comes out to 0.202. So now we got to obtain P. So what does Z equal? Z equals, let's see, we did less than, so we're going to do P hat sub D 0.192 minus 0.268 minus 0, because we think that they're equal up here, okay, over, we've got to add the variances on the bottom, okay, so we got to do P pooled, and then what would Q pooled be? Well, Q pool would be 1 minus 0.202, and that equals 0.798. So that's 0.798 over 281 plus 0.202 times 0.798 over 41. Okay? And then we're going to go to our calculator. And we're going to go to stat test. And we're going to go to a 2-prop Z test. And X sub 1 is 41 out of 281, and this one, X sub 2, is 11 out of 41, and we're testing that it's less than, and we're going to draw that out. Oh, hold on, I made a mistake there. This is not 41. This is 54. Okay, that's 54 out of 281. So let's. Okay, so you get. Make sure I did this right. Let's see. Let's see. You had 54 out of 281. And you had 11 out of 41 testing. Okay. Okay, so this is what we get. Okay. So, what are we going to do here? Well, let's draw that up. So we're going to put this in. And we're going to put this, so we got a z of negative 1.13. And we get a p-value of 0.128. Okay, so we make a decision. We're going to fail to reject A sub O. There is no evidence that parental attitudes influence teens' decision to smoke. Okay? So we could not prove that this was true. There's no evidence. So, okay, so now the next question is, well, what is this p-value of 0.128? Okay, well, we got this, right? So we think that there is no difference. So we think that P sub D minus P sub L equals 0. That's basically what we're saying. And we got a z-score here of negative 0.1. Okay. And this p-value equals about 0.13. Okay. So, what does this mean? Well, this difference is the difference between the 0.192 and 0.268, which comes out to negative 0.076. Okay, that is from here, this piece right here. Okay, so what this means is, if there is no difference, there's a 13% chance, okay, of getting a difference of 0.076 or less. Okay, or another way of saying it is, there's a 13% chance of getting a difference of 0.076 or less if there truly is no difference in those two proportions. So that's what that means. Okay? And then the last question says, well, what if we're wrong? So what do we do? Well, we've failed to reject the null, right? So that means that we found this true. So if we were wrong, okay, then this would be true. So if the alternative hypothesis, I'm sorry, this would be true. Okay, we found this to be true. So if we were wrong, then the alternative hypothesis would be true. And we failed to reject the null. And what would that be? Okay, that would be a type 2 error. We would have committed a type 2 error.